Was this Chris Bassitt's final outing of 2024? We're going to break it all down on today's episode of
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. By the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Blue Jays is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well on Twitter, or as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here on YouTube, drop a subscription. We notice a lot of you guys that watch aren't subscribed. It does help us out, keeps us the top of your guys' page. And if you're not watching here on YouTube and you're listening somewhere else, make sure you head over to the YouTube, you drop a subscription, you hit the notification button so you get notified in case there's a live, some shorts, whatever. We got content everywhere and always. So keep an eye out for that. Carter, lot to get into today. First, we're going to talk Chris Bassitt, what he's done this season. Is he done for the year? Will he get another start? Then we're going to go into Kirk's defense. He's been pretty electric behind the dish so far since he's become the, primetime catcher. But before we do that, Carter, a little bit of announcement here. We're going live Sunday for the final game of the Toronto Blue Jays season, answering all your guys' questions. We'll do a little watch party. I don't know, maybe get into a couple beers. We'll have some conversations with all of you. We want to get your guys' take, so make sure you join that live right at first pitch of the game. You can have us on. You can have the game on. We'll all watch together. We'll answer questions and do everything. Carter, how do you feel about the live, man? We haven't done one in a while. You pretty pumped up?
It's been a bit. It's been a while, and it's been some trade deadline because that's the last time there was anything really exciting to talk about in the Toronto Blue Jays season. Not necessarily an exciting podcast coming on Sunday because I'm not going to celebrate the end of baseball, but it's more of a celebration for the Locked On Blue Jays, for all the people watching, for sticking around for this Toronto Blue Jays season that went so drastically wrong. Credit to everyone still watching baseball games. We'll get into, obviously, today's game, but some of them are a lot harder to watch than others. So we got to celebrate. It's a long season, obviously. We've been doing it every day, obviously, for since January. So it's been a long grind. So we gotta take our time and celebrate what we've done here as well. So obviously, thank to all the people watching, all the people supporting us. Hopefully, you guys can join us on that Sunday. Go live for the last Toronto Blue Jays game of the year. But we're going to get into the game. Fourth straight loss for the Toronto Blue Jays. Fourth straight loss to an AL East opponent. They're really embracing this tankathon. They really want Ethan Holiday on this baseball team. And I can't hate them for that because he looks like a very good prospect. Some people are saying he might be better than Jackson Holiday. But before we do get into all the games and stuff like that, the draft and stuff like that, let's actually talk about the baseball that's still being played. And like Braden said, we're going to start with Chris Bassitt. So the way we're kind of approaching these podcasts now is we are looking at the individual stats. We do want to see what these players are doing in the game. But with Chris Bassitt, for a guy that's been established in the league for so long, again, I'm more looking at the trends, the things that are going on in his game, not necessarily the stat lines. And in this game, Chris Bassitt had no command. He looked like Alek Manoah in 2023, just throwing the ball all over the place. Not really sure what was going on with Chris Bassitt's game here. I'll just go into his individual stat line. 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits given up, 2 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, 7 walks, a career high for Chris Bassitt. High this year, 10 walks in the game for Toronto Blue Jays pitchers. That is also a high for the Toronto Blue Jays in 2024. You give the Red Sox 10 free passes in a game. That's Chris Bassitt and company. That's, just give me any team 10 free passes. It's probably not going to work out too well for you. And Chris Bassitt, for me, from what I've been watching, that's why I decided to look this up, is it hasn't looked like Chris Bassitt has found himself being very comfortable on the mound in the month of September. When you look at the ERA, you look at the very basic stats, stuff like that. It's nothing's too different. You don't see the consistency flying too much. Like going over September ERA, it's a 3.26. He's pitched 19.1 innings. That's over 4 starts. So again, that's not great there. But this is the problem that I have with Chris Bassitt, is that he's giving up a million base runners, and it's the walks, and it's also the hits at this point. He's giving up a 3.09 opponent average in September, a whip of 1.97. So that is pretty much 2 base runners per inning where Chris Bassitt is pitching in the month of September. I'm not really sure what's going on with Bassitt. It doesn't look like anything mechanical from what I've seen. Again, I am not an analyst. I'm not a scientist. The guys that are really breaking this down and analyzing this. But Chris Bassitt, a guy that's been a stouted vet, he hasn't really had any stretches like this where he's lost the command for so long. So one thing that they were talking about on the broadcast, and I guess this is where we're going to have to start this, is the dome was closed today. And if you remember a game from before, Chris Bassitt said that it was like a completely different world that he was pitching in, completely different stadiums, completely different ballparks with the roof open compared to closed. So they were using the Chris Bassitt, yeah, the roof closed. I don't know why that would impact anything compared to being the roof open. I don't know like what he's trying to get there. You'd think maybe, I don't know, like you throw the wind excuse out there. Maybe the sun was in Chris Bassitt's eyes. For me personally, you're an MLB player. You played on the Jays last season with the roof open and closed. You didn't say one thing about this issue. Now again, this isn't Chris Bassitt saying anything about this start, but he did say something earlier on. So some people are falling back on this. Do you see, again, we've talked about this before, but again, we'll bring it up one more time. Do you see any merit to this argument between the Rogers Center being open or closed?
Carter, I just roll my eyes at this. To be honest with you, it's very frustrating to hear things like this. It's excuses, and that's what it is. And I absolutely love Chris Bassitt. And we will not shy away from the players that we love. I will tell you, but I'm also not going to pretend like this is an okay excuse. It's not. It's absolute BS. I take no merit into this. And to be honest with you, I looked over his yearly stats, Carter. This is his second worst ERA year since he joined the league. And a little bit of that has to be that the team isn't good. They're not making the playoffs. They're not competing. Baseball, we always talk about, is such a mental sport. And when you go out there and you know that it doesn't matter what you're going to do out there, you're already out of the playoffs. How do you go out there and expect to play well? And if Chris Bassitt wants to use any excuse, there it is. It's served to you on a silver platter right there. We're not playing meaningful baseball. I'm not in the competitive mindset right now. And I fully believe that that's partially what this is. It's not his mechanics. It's not his, anything wrong with him when he's throwing the baseball. It's all mental. You don't go out there, and I cannot believe that you're not going out there and you're not giving 100%. I fully believe he's not giving 100% every time because he knows that none of these starts matter. He's old enough. He's a vet in this league. One season of if he doesn't pitch good, it's not like they're going to ship him off to AAA. It's Chris Bassitt. He's going to be a starter on this team, and it doesn't matter that he goes out and, has 4 or 5 bad starts in a row to end a meaningless season. So that's where I'm standing with Chris Bassitt. The dome is a ridiculous response, and I'm happy that he didn't go back to that and say that again. To say that on the broadcast to me is just disrespectful, honestly, to fans to anybody that watches baseball. I think that's a ridiculous response, and for them to bring that up on the broadcast really just sort of grinds my gears a little bit, Carter.
You've said some things I agree with. You said some things I don't agree with. I'm kind of in the middle of this. For example, for one, this wouldn't have been brought up on the broadcast if you never would have said it in the first place.
For sure. Yeah.
So again, that's one for Chris Bassitt. Like you can't use that excuse as an MLB player, as a grizzled vet like Chris Bassitt.
No.
Other pitchers pitch with the roof open, with the roof closed. I've never heard that excuse with the renovations, with the roof being open and closed, even before the renovations. I've never heard that before. Again, Chris Bassitt didn't go back and say this, but he said it once. Don't even know why you throw it out there in the first place. The mental aspect. The Blue Jays have been out of it for a long time. Chris Bassitt has been one of the most open guys on this Toronto Blue Jays team, saying that's been very underwhelming. You got to hold themselves accountable. Just very disappointing across the board for sure. You're mentally not going to be as prepared, as hyped up to go pitch in a random game in September. That doesn't mean anything, especially when you've been in the MLB for a long time. The part I don't necessarily agree with is when you said Chris Bassitt isn't going out there with 100% every single time. I think if you're an MLB player, I think you got to approach these games the same way every single time, whether it's from a mental capacity, whether it's from a physical capacity. Doesn't matter where you are. I know Chris Bassitt is a vet. You got to go out there and pitch it 100% of your. You got to try your 100% hardest in every single game. You're getting paid millions. I know you're right, Chris Bassitt. If he goes out there and has a stinker for the entire month of September, is he going to be back from Toronto Blue Jays next season? For sure he is. This guy has a very safe roster spot, which is definitely fair. But I think with you're an MLB player, it's definitely hard for the fans to hear that. Even if that was true, they're never going to admit that. And if the fans knew that players weren't going out there and giving it a 100% chance, that would come back on them very quickly. Again, nobody would ever admit to that. I wouldn't say Chris Bassitt isn't giving it 100% effort out there, but I would say that the mental aspect of the game definitely makes it a little bit harder to get involved and like get into the game.
Yeah, and it's not, I'm not necessarily saying that he's meaning to not go out there and give 100%, but you're telling me that we're seeing the same 100% Chris Bassitt as if the Blue Jays were in a run for the division title? No. You would see a very different competitive mindset from Chris Bassitt. So in that aspect, this isn't going into the playoffs, Chris Bassitt. This is, oh, I'm well aware that we're out of it. And it doesn't matter as much as you want to say you're 100%, that you're giving it all you possibly can. When you don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, it's pretty, I think it doesn't matter who you are. It's very, very hard to go out there and realistically give 100%.
So you're thinking subconsciously Chris Bassitt saying, oh, like the season's done. Who really cares? But obviously he's going to go out there. He's a good player. Yes. He's a professional athlete. He's going to go out there and definitely try his best. I see what you're saying. I don't think it's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Like for sure, the mental aspect of where the Toronto Blue Jays are, where this season projected to be, where we are right now, for these veterans especially, definitely a hard pill to swallow. For the just the emotion out there, the intensity, Chris Bassitt, yeah, if you're going to compare this to playoff baseball, absolutely not. You're not going to get those moments where you reach back for a little bit extra to try to get one of these hitters out in the seventh inning of a game that's not going to matter. So in that sense, for sure, the way he's going preparing for the game, or the way he's approaching these at bats, there's no way this has changed whatsoever. This guy is not going to just change the way he's preparing for a baseball game just because his team is out of the playoffs. I just don't see that as being a real thing. Again, the mental aspect, probably a problem. Definitely something that's not going to help you in a season that is 162 games. But Chris Bassitt is a professional. If he is approaching these games any differently, then that's a huge problem that I have for Chris Bassitt. Because what happens if you go into next season and you start out slow again? Is Chris Bassitt automatically just going to say, hey, the Toronto Blue Jays don't look good again. Why should I be as mentally involved in this game? So that's just something, maybe it's a delusion. I'm never going to believe that a player is not fully committing to playing for their MLB team, especially when they're like Chris Bassitt. Maybe you got these odd guys, like maybe a Tommy Pham. That's something that I might believe a little bit more. When you're talking about Chris Bassitt with his pedigree, I don't see that as even being a possibility.
I don't think it's that they're meaning to, but I think subconsciously that has to play a part. I mean, it was playing a part in Bo Bichette. When your team's not playing well, we talked about it and ragged on Bo Bichette because of this.
And I also had my set ways in that. Wasn't necessarily agreeing with you there. So I think this it's seemingly that this is spiraling farther on into our podcast, that you're pretty set with some of these players kind of mentally taking themselves out of the game when things aren't going well. I still think that you're a professional baseball player. I think you should still be mentally in the game. But I guess you're just kind of saying more so subconsciously they're not going to be in the game. They're never going to tell you that, obviously. But
I think it's just naive to think that these guys are competing at the same level as if they're battling for a division title. I think it's just naive to think about it like that. Carter, I want to put it to you, okay? You go into work and you know that, oh, we have nothing to do today. Are you going to still go out there and you're going to take it into your own hands to go and, I don't know, weed whack or cut grass to your full potential? I don't think so.
I mean, this is just a horrible comparison. If I was getting paid millions of dollars to do this, and maybe if there's job security there as well, like there's a lot of different things for this comparison. I don't think I'm going to have as much job security in my summer job as Chris Bassitt might have, being a very good and competent MLB starter for over 10 years of service time. So a little bit of different comparisons there. I kind of know what you're getting at. But again, it's just completely different situations here. It's like you're an MLB player. Like, let's go with this. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's had a way better All-Star break, post-All-Star break than he had pre-All-Star break. And the Toronto Blue Jays have been out of the playoff contention for pretty much all of the post-All-Star break. So when you're looking at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., is he mentally losing it? Doesn't really look like it. Spencer Horwitz, Alejandro Kirk, you look at these guys, they look pretty good out there. So that's my rebuttal to that.
Okay, but I got a rebuttal to that.
Right.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is playing for his extension. He wants the money. He knows that there's a battle here between him and Rogers to get paid what he wants to get paid. Alejandro Kirk, you brought him up. He wants to play because he knows that they could go into the offseason and get a new catcher, because that was looking very realistic if this team is wanting to move on. He's playing well because he wants to secure his job. Spencer Horwitz, a rookie in the league, he's going to give a different effort. Chris Bassitt is locked in for another year. He's a veteran in the league. He doesn't have to worry about where his next paycheck coming from necessarily. He just wants to win.
Well, there you go. I guess we're gonna get into this again. This Locked On Blue Jays. We haven't really had a debate like this in a while, so I love it. But again, rebuttal there. Jose Barrios has had a very good September, very good last 2 weeks of August. Kevin Gausman's been really good as well. These guys are in the very close and very similar places to Chris Bassitt, especially Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman has one more year on his deal. Pretty similar accolades. Kevin Gausman, the upside. I think we can both agree, obviously, a little bit more there. But when you're looking at it from the veteran standpoint, the job security standpoint, Kevin Gausman's not going anywhere. Chris Bassitt's not going out anywhere. Kevin Gausman's still pitching very effectively. Jose Barrios still pitching very, very effectively. I would argue that these two players don't really have much more to play for than Chris Bassitt. I think they're very similar. I do understand what you're saying with Vladdy and stuff like that. There's personal goals in there. I don't think Kevin Gausman has any personal goals this season. He had a below average season to Kevin Gausman standards. He doesn't really have anything to pitch for. So that's where I would fault your argument right for me there.
And I can see that. I understand that. But again, it's different situations for every player. Kevin Gausman and Jose Barrios, we were debating all year who is the ace. You're talking about, oh, well, you always have two aces, right? You have your Kevin Gausman and your Jose Barrios. Nobody's saying that Chris Bassitt's an ace. And so it's just the skill gap there, Carter. We're talking like we know that these guys.
Chris Bassitt disrespect. We got our roommate Justin Powers still here too.
I'm sure
he's going to have something to say about that after.
I love Chris Bassitt, but also he's not an ace. He is your third guy, and he's a stable third guy. He's one of the best, probably third guys in the league on a consistent basis. But right now, you're not. I don't have any belief that any of these players or 90% of these players aren't going out with an absolute playoff intensity, like they're battling for, a spot in the playoffs. It's just not the case. And so for Chris Bassitt to have a not great day or not great a week or 2 weeks, or he's been, I don't know, iffy for the past little while. We've heard that Chris Bassitt understands the position they're in probably more than anybody. And so that's probably, even if it is subconsciously, playing a role in how he's playing on the field.
Well, and let's take a step back here. Like Chris Bassitt has a 4.16 ERA, 171 innings pitched, a 1.46 WHIP. Like he's not bad. We're not saying, like if we're making kind of sound like this guy's having a horrendous season. It's absolutely not that whatsoever.
That's right.
This isn't Jose Barrios from 2022. Like this is Chris Bassitt having a slightly worse season than his other seasons. So I love that we got into this debate. Leave us comments and on your opinions on whether you're more on my side, on Braden's side, or you have maybe your own opinion. Maybe you agree with both of us in some aspects. But I love that. I love how we actually got a little bit fired up about Blue Jays baseball for the first time in what feels like a long time.
For nothing either.
Chris Bassitt, probably he's going to go out there next year and he's going to have like a 3.75 ERA and he's going to be our third starter and we're going to be okay with that. Chris Bassitt is going to go out there and probably give you exactly what you are expecting. Again, are we going to remember this next season? Probably not. I mean, these games don't matter. We've been saying it on this podcast for a long time. But when you do have these command issues, definitely something that we want to be talking about and at least putting some light on when you're talking about Chris Bassitt. But we do have some other things to talk about. We got Alejandro Kirk, my boy. I want to get into the speed demon. We have some things to say about him. Obviously, some other stuff about the game, just Blue Jays news, you name it. We'll have a lot more coming at you. We're just going to take a short break and we'll come at you with all that stuff after this. Take care of all your vehicular maintenance needs with our partner, eBay Motors. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Over 122 million parts for your vehicle, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. I know I brought this up in the podcast before, but I love saying the story. My first vehicle was a Pontiac Montana. It was a mom van. I packed all my friends in there. I was one of the first ones in my grade to get my license. So I was Uber. I was driving everyone around. eBay Motors gave me the ability to keep that Montana on the road for probably longer than it should have been, but I definitely got my usage out of it. So to keep your ride or die alive, you can go to eBay Motors, and that is ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available for U.S. customers.
Obviously here to Vince Carter. He's getting his jersey hoisted into the rafters. And it's the first in the Toronto Raptors history. And actually, Vince Carter will be the first player ever in NBA history to get his jersey hung in for two teams in the span of a year. So congrats to him. Very electric. I know, like we said, we're not big basketball guys, but I think everybody in their right mind knows about Vince Carter and his dunk contest and everything he did for the city of Toronto. So big shout out to him just before we got into Alejandro
Yeah,
Kirk.
absolutely. We definitely know what it feels like to at least cover a team that's playing for an entire country. You don't really get that many other places. Toronto Raptors would be another team that you do get that with. So again, I'm not a big basketball guy at all, but do I ever know Vince Carter? I've watched those dunk contests. So fun to watch. This guy's just an entertainer and a very good basketball player to do it as well. Again, not a big basketball guy, but I kind of want to think this out with you. Maybe we can do it together, put our two small bit basketball brains together. When did Vince Carter retire? I know it was recently. I think 2021, if I had to guess. Maybe
No.
I'll what you not
Oh no, it
ago?
was
Was it way longer?
well, he's 40. I think he's like 47 now.
He also played late into his career though. People are probably just
It was
mad at us right now.
Right.
Like,
no,
oh, you idiots.
I think you're right. I think it was 2020 actually. I think you're right. He did
I'll
play
look
for
it
a
up
long
right
time.
now. But yeah, if you guys are Raptors fans, we are sorry because not big basketball guys. Obviously, some of you guys probably like, you idiots. How do you not know Vince Carter and when he retired? One of the best Raptors to ever do it.
Yeah.
I'll take that one on the chin. A little bit unfortunate for us here.
No, you know what? I think you're right. I think it was late. I want to say it was 2020 though.
2020, right? I wasn't 2021. You acted like I was crazy there for a second.
You know what? It just sounded nuts to me. But
I knew he played late. Again, I'm like that was the bubble time around there too. So I did watch a little bit of basketball, obviously during the COVID stuff, just looking for stuff to do. But let's go into a sport that we actually know a thing or two about. Then let's maybe stick to our stomping grounds over here. Let's talk about a guy that I've been actually been liking a little bit more recently. Been liking a lot more since the All-Star break. Wasn't his biggest fan before, and there is a false to his game. It's false to everyone's game, but we'll get into this guy. And that's Alejandro Kirk. This guy just continues to be just a rock out there. And I guess today we want to talk about the defense. For sure, I want to talk about the defense. But before, got to give credit to my boy. I said it on the last podcast. Alejandro Kirk looks like he got faster. He just looks like it. I don't know. Something about it. He beat out another infield single today. And I got some stats to back it up. Really only one. I thought it was pretty funny. I went back. All I did was went on Baseball Savant. And I figured, Alejandro Kirk, it looks like he got faster. Let's see what your sprint speed has been in the last 3 years. Second percentile, by the way, 0 is the worst. Second percentile in 2022, second percentile in 2023, fifth percentile this year. Alejandro Kirk is making those strides. Road to a stolen base.
Holy, that would be the day. Like, I don't know. We're gonna have to pop champagne on the day that Alejandro Kirk steals it. You know what? I said the same thing about him getting a triple. So
I think we both actually bet on Alejandro Kirk. I think we had an over-under at 0.5 at the start of the season for a stolen base. I think we both went over just for the fun of it. Imagine if that was the triple bet. People would have been, hey, you had a good bet against the Broncos. You had Broncos over Bucks. You've been kind of throwing that in my face a little bit. Congratulations to you. But that would have been on that level. That would have been a nice one to have in the back pocket. But again, we're kind of getting off track here, snapping around a little bit. Alejandro Kirk, back to the thing that I wanted to talk about, and that's the defense. Alejandro Kirk, 2 back picks in this game. This is a guy that's known for framing, known for stealing strikes, known for a pretty decent pop time. Not the greatest arm, though. And Alejandro Kirk is starting to throw people out. You got Rafaela in the top of the 8th as well on a stolen base. 2 back picks. He got Caballero in the third game of the Tampa Bay Rays series. Starting to throw some guys out. And that is a great thing to see from Alejandro Kirk, especially when you've gotten the bat awakening up a little bit in this post-All-Star break. And I think a lot of this has come to Alejandro Kirk getting more playing time, as we saw with a lot of other players on this team. When you have that split with Danny Jansen, Alejandro Kirk, Danny Jansen taking a lot of those reps, especially earlier on in the year, it's tough to get settled into your league when you're not playing a lot. Even so, defensively, you get Alejandro Kirk playing the majority of reps, and he has looked really good. And part of this is caught stealing above average. He's in the 95th percentile in this, has 7 caught stealing above average, 7 people. That's a pretty good stat line for Alejandro Kirk, for a guy that has some pretty good defensive accolades. Even if he can hit where he's hitting in this post All-Star break, not even quite there because he's hitting over 300 post All-Star break. You can have Alejandro Kirk sit at 250 and play elite defense. I'm not going to complain too much about Alejandro Kirk's performance.
Carter, we've talked about this guy and sort of what his position would be when Danny Jansen left, or what it would be when those two were together, right? It's been a question all season long. And what I've seen from Alejandro Kirk is he's only gotten better with the more playing time he's gotten. Some catchers that isn't a part of their game. They need a guy that's going to take some of the pressure off of them and some of the games off of them. Alejandro Kirk looks like a guy who's just excelled at being the primary catcher. And we've always talked about how good his framing was, right? But we never really saw him really chuck the ball a whole bunch or be effective at chucking the ball. We're starting to see that. And that's, as a catcher, yes, you're looking for them to hit, you're looking for them everything. But the defensive component to being a catcher and running the diamond, right? It's such a huge thing. And Alejandro Kirk has been proving that this might be his position to keep. If he can get the bat going a little bit as well, Carter, which he has been a little bit more so since the All-Star break, he could be a good component for this team, right? We always talked about building around what positions will the Jays need to bring in to complement this team. And I really don't think that a catcher is necessarily what they're looking for. Yes, maybe somebody to take a couple games from Kirk, somebody that can, be maybe a bat off the bench when need be. But I don't think this is a point of contention here for this team. I think that they don't really have to worry about this. Alejandro Kirk has shown and proven that he's the catcher for this team.
He's looked good. He's looked really good. For sure, you're going to need a backup catcher. Absolutely. Yeah. Tyler Heineman, the guy's been pretty good with his short career with the Toronto Blue Jays over the last million seasons, what it seems like. But he doesn't have the expectation that I want as a backup catcher. More of a defensive guy over a long period of time. Probably not going to be a guy that you want necessarily as a backup catcher. I would love to have him as a third catcher, though. If you do have an injury, you get Tyler Heineman called up from AAA. That's definitely something that I'd be open to. But you got to do something. Maybe it's a Yasmani Grandal. Somebody who probably just plays good defense. Again, you're not going to get the catcher market right now. You're not going to get this huge name. Even the catchers in this league, there's not a ton of good ones when you're looking at it from up and down in totality. But with Alejandro Kirk, you want him to keep working on that arm. Again, I said he had really good pop time. I misspoke there. He's getting better with his pop time. That's the weakest part of his defensive game. If you can get that even to like MLB average, if you can just maybe get the arm strength a little bit up as well. But with Alejandro Kirk, what I've noticed recently is just his throws are a lot more accurate as well. He's really just throwing it in a very good spot, and it makes the tag a whole lot easier when you have a tag where you only have to move a half a foot compared to going all the way across your body. Saves a lot of time and also makes the tag a lot easier. So with Alejandro Kirk, this guy's only 25 years old. He's very young still in this system. You just want him to keep building. You want Alejandro Kirk to keep figuring it out. He has gotten better pretty much every single season other than, I guess you could say, 2023 and the start of the season. But in the end, 2024 looked really good. 2022 is another good year for Alejandro Kirk. Not a very long career. So hopefully he just can keep building on what he's been doing well at the end of the season. But I'll let you finish it off here. That's pretty much all I got for Alejandro Kirk, though.
No, me too. And there's not, again, a ton to go over here. We're talking about defensive and what it's more of the eye test stuff. Yes, you can go and look at all the statistics, but I mean, I think his vision as a catcher is also getting better. And that's the one thing that, you don't necessarily really have a statistic for, right? Just the moments when he can throw down to a base to try to get somebody, okay, should I throw in this situation? Should I? The decision making, I guess, is the right way to say this, and that's something that's huge for catchers, and I think a very underrated value of just knowing the diamond, knowing what's going on. And Alejandro Kirk again has been proving to me that he might be the catcher, or that he is the catcher for this team, and it excites me a little bit more. He's a guy that I love to watch. It's fun to watch. Even if it is, just watching him run around the bases, it's great. So. In that scenario, Carter, Kirk has really surprised me over this back half of the season. But in saying that, Carter, we got some other stuff to get into. We've been talking your guys' ear off, I feel like, getting into some of these debates and conversations. But
I feel like it goes a lot smoother that way. We haven't had that in a long time. Let us know if you kind of like the more traditional, or you like when we kind of argue with each other a little bit. That's definitely something that we can bring more of. We've been saving that stuff more so off camera, I guess, compared to on camera, not necessarily about the Toronto Blue Jays stuff, but we can snap it around. We are obviously pretty good friends. We live together. So not a lot of feelings are going to get hurt on this podcast. So we'll get into it. We might take some jabs at each other. Hope you guys do enjoy that. But let us know if you guys do enjoy those arguments. But we do have a couple more things we want to get into. Braden's got some things to let you guys know about. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll come at you a bunch of Blue Jay stuff after this short break.
Today's episode, as I said, is brought to you by Booking.com. I always say Booking.com is one of my favorite sites to use because they just make it so easy. Explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. Maybe it's time to taste test your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Luckily on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. With Booking.com's wide variety of choice across the U.S. cities, you can go incognito to all your baseball rivals cities. I was talking about this. I went down to New York. And again, I don't want to watch Yankees baseball, but it was a good time, and Booking.com helped us make that a great stay. Booking.com delivers exactly the right U.S. stay for you. Booking.com can help you book a stay that's close to your home team or your team's rivals. Booking.com, booking.yeah. Today's episode also brought to you by FanDuel. I just won a huge bet on FanDuel, actually. So shout out to FanDuel, my favorite place to place bets. So when you have a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I love the live same-game parlays. I just utilize those all the time because I'm terrible at making my own bets, so I just go with what everybody else is going, and hopefully it works out. And more often than not, it does, because that's another great feature on FanDuel. It shows you how many people are betting the same thing as you. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Ooh, Carter, so much more to get into. No, let us know what you guys think about sort of us going at it, debating a little bit. It's fun. I think it makes the show fun, gives different perspectives. We want to come at you guys with stats and this and this and that, and very structured stuff as well. But sometimes we like to go a little bit off book and just have some fun. That's where we're at in this season. So I think it was good. All respect here. No hate towards Carter. Well, not on the podcast anyway. And we'll continue to go along.
Yeah, you try to save the hate for after the podcast. At least try not to flame me in the public eye too much. You save that for the roommates around here.
Yeah.
But I really only got a couple more things to say. It's Bowden Francis Day. It's the last day that I'm excited for. I'm going to say before the end of the season. I guess the last game of the year. Just I'll see you guys talk. Hopefully, can conversate with you guys, talk about the season, stuff like that. Excited for that as well. But for a Toronto Blue Jays baseball standpoint, it's Bowden Francis. I want to see that this guy's got to go out with a perfect game, right? That's what we need.
God, he's been close, my man. He's been close. He needs
maybe not quite the perfect game, but the no-hitter he's been close.
The no-hitter, yeah. But you know what? He's been working. So I'd love to see him continue and finish off the season strong. I think that's a big thing for this game that I'll be watching. But yeah, besides that, I mean, I'm not really looking out for much else. Of course, I always want to see Davis Schneider do well. Always want to see Vlad, kill baseballs.
Yeah, I more for Vlad, and it's the hits. We're the road to 200. He's at 194. You got 5 more games. Sounds very attainable. It should be very attainable for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. If we're at the point where I would sacrifice Bowden Francis and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He gets to 200. Bowden Francis has a very good outing. Nobody else has to do anything in that game. Just those two can show. If Vladdy wants to hit a home run and go for 3 for 3 or 3 for 4, whatever it is, Bowden Francis doesn't give up a run. Everyone else goes over. I don't care. I'll be content. It's Toronto Blue Jays fan.
Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, I'll also want to see Ernie do well, Spencer Horwitz do well. We want to see all these Blue Jays players do well to finish the season off in the last, series and a half that we have of baseball. But like we said, Carter, I don't have much else. But of course, I wanted to let people know again about the live stream Sunday. First pitch of the game, we will be live. We'll answer your guys' questions. You can come in. You can make fun of us if you want. Whatever you guys want to do. Just come in, join us, have some fun. We will be. It's just going to be very chill. We're going to answer questions. We're going to talk some Blue Jays. We're going to we might even give you a little bit of a rundown on what sort of the offseason looks like for us and sort of what's in the cards coming for the podcast. Lot to come here on Locked On Blue Jays, Carter. Anything else before I sort of tag our last thing and then we can get out of here?
No, I don't got much. I'm trying to find out when that game is just to make sure.
I think it's 12, or I guess it's 12 something our time.
Yeah, so we're obviously talking about Central Time. We'll figure that out, obviously, in the next couple of days. For some reason, I'm having trouble with my phone right now. Maybe Braden will find it. But no, it's just the support and everything has been awesome as of recently, especially with where we're at in the Toronto Blue Jays season. Not a lot of exciting things to go on, but we still have a ton of plans for the offseason. For the last week, we'll probably talk about the baseball that's going on. And then after that, it'll be snapping off bangers left and right on Locked On Blue Jays. But other than that, just thank you for the support and all the likes, comments, everything. It's just it's been a fun ride, and we hopefully can stick with it for a lot longer than just the first year. First year is almost done.
Yeah, so 2:07 Central game. I believe that's 3:07 Eastern, if my math is correct. So yeah, make sure you tune in. First pitch of that Sunday game against the Marlins, and we'll just talk some baseball, have some fun. The game might not be that interesting, but we'll try to make it as interesting as possible. You guys can throw the game on one TV, us up on your phone or laptop or a second TV, and just hang out. Leave us some comments. It'll be a great time. Thank you for making us always your first listen every day. Make sure you go and you give Locked On MLB your second listen with host Paul Sullivan. Sully, our guy, runs a great show. He'll cover all of the league sort of coming up through the playoffs. When we'll be sitting on our couch just watching other teams play baseball. As always, guys, thanks a bunch. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. It's going to be a sad few couple days if Toronto Blue Jays baseball.